Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
A person who owes allegiance to that nation. Inside the country. Concerned with or applicable to or belonging to an entire nation or country. The national government. Limited to or in the interests of a particular nation. National interests. Owned or maintained for the public by the national government. National parks. Of or relating to or belonging to a nation or country. National hero. Characteristic of or peculiar to the people of a nation. A national trait. Of or relating to nationality. National origin. A branch of knowledge. Teachers should be well trained in their subject. Possibly accepting or permitting. The time is fixed by the director and players and therefore subject to much variation. A person who owes allegiance to that nation. A monarch has a duty to his subjects. Being under the power or sovereignty of another or others. Subject peoples. Make subservient. Forced to submit or subdue. The subject matter of a conversation or discussion. He didn't want to discuss that subject. Something, a person or object or scene, selected by an artist or photographer for graphic representation. A moving picture of a train is more dramatic than a still picture of the same subject. A person who is subjected to experimental or other observational procedures. Someone who is an object of investigation. The subjects for this investigation were selected randomly. Some situation or event that is thought about. He had been thinking about the subject for several years. Cause to experience or suffer or make liable or vulnerable to. He subjected me to his awful poetry. Grammar. One of the two main constituents of a sentence. The grammatical constituent about which something is predicated. Likely to be affected by something. The bond is subject to taxation. Logic. The first term of a proposition. Make accountable for. He did not want to subject himself to the judgments of his superiors. Baseball. Base consisting of a rubber slab where the batter stands. It must be touched by a base runner in order to score. He ruled that the runner failed to touch home. An institution where people are cared for. A home for the elderly. A social unit living together. The teacher asked how many people made up his home. Inside the country. Where you live at a particular time. Deliver the package to my home. The place where you are stationed and from which missions start and end. Housing that someone is living in. They raise money to provide homes for the homeless. An environment offering affection and security. Home is where the heart is. Place where something began and flourished. The United States is the home of basketball. Provide with, or send to, a home. Return home accurately from a long distance. The country or state or city where you live. Canadian tariffs enabled United States lumber companies to raise prices at home. Used of your own ground. A home game. Relating to or being where one lives or where one's roots are. My hometown. of or coming from the middle of a region or country. The United States federal department charged with conservation and the development of natural resources, created in 1849. Inside the country. The inner or enclosed surface of something. Located inward. She thinks she has no soul, no interior life, but the truth is that she has no access to it. The region that is inside of something. Inside and toward a center. Interior regions of the earth. Situated within or suitable for inside a building. An interior scene. Inside the country. The nation's internal politics. Located inward. An internal sense of righteousness. Innermost or essential. The internal contradictions of the theory. Occurring within an institution or community. Happening or arising or located within some limits or especially surface. Internal organs. A servant who is paid to perform menial tasks around the household. Converted or adapted to domestic use. Domestic animals. Of concern to or concerning the internal affairs of a nation. Domestic issues such as tax rate and highway construction. Of or involving the home or family. Domestic worries. Produced in a particular country. Domestic wine. Of or relating to the home. Domestic servant. Any federal law enforcement officer. Being of or having to do with the northern United States and those loyal to the Union during the American Civil War. A member of the Union Army during the American Civil War. Characterized by or constituting a form of government in which power is divided between one central and several regional authorities. A federal system like that of the United States. National, especially in reference to the government of the United States as distinct from that of its member units. Federal courts. Of or relating to the central government of a federation. A federal district is one set aside as the seat of the national government. Devotion to the interests or culture of a particular nation, including promoting the interests of one country over those of others. Nationalist aspirations. One who loves and defends his or her country. An advocate of national independence of or a strong national government. Devotion to the interests or culture of a particular nation, including promoting the interests of one country over those of others. Minor nationalistic differences. Fanatically patriotic. People in general considered as a whole. He is a hero in the eyes of the public. A body of people sharing some common interest. The reading public. Affecting the people or community as a whole. The public welfare. Not private. Open to or concerning the people as a whole. The public good. A politically organized body of people under a single government. African nations. The people who live in a nation or country. A statement that sums up the nation's mood. United States prohibitionist who raided saloons and destroyed bottles of liquor with a hatchet, 1846 to 1911. A federation of tribes, especially Native American tribes. The Shawnee Nation. People having common origins or traditions and often comprising a nation. Immigrants of the same nationality often seek each other out. The status of belonging to a particular nation by birth or naturalization. A human being. The immaterial part of a person. The actuating cause of an individual life. Deep feeling or emotion. A human being. A secular form of gospel that was a major black musical genre in the 1960s and 1970s. Soul was politically significant during the civil rights movement. The human embodiment of something. The soul of honor. Characteristic of or meant for a single person or thing. An individual serving. Being or characteristic of a single thing or person. Individual drops of rain. A human being. Separate and distinct from others of the same kind. Mark the individual pages. Concerning one person exclusively. We all have individual cars. A single organism. A human being. There was too much for one person to do. A grammatical category used in the classification of pronouns, possessive determiners, and verb forms according to whether they indicate the speaker, the addressee, or a third party. Stop talking about yourself in the third person. A human body, usually including the clothing. A weapon was hidden on his person. A human being. Causing or capable of causing death. Mortal combat. A human being. Involving loss of divine grace or spiritual death. Subject to death. Mortal beings. Unrelenting and deadly. Mortal enemy. A native or naturalized member of a state or other political community. A person from your own country. One who loves and defends his or her country. Material in the top layer of the surface of the earth in which plants can grow, especially with reference to its quality or use. The land had never been plowed. The territory occupied by a nation. He returned to the land of his birth. A politically organized body of people under a single government. An industrialized land. United States inventor who incorporated Polaroid film into lenses and invented the one-step photographic process, 1909 to 1991. Extensive landed property, especially in the country, retained by the owner for his own use. The family owned a large estate on Long Island. Reach or come to rest. The bird landed on the highest branch. Bring into a different state. This may land you in jail. The people who live in a nation or country. Arrive on shore. The ship landed in Pearl Harbor. Cause to come to the ground. The pilot managed to land the airplane safely. Agriculture considered as an occupation or way of life. There's no work on the land anymore. The solid part of the Earth's surface. The plane turned away from the sea and moved back over land. Shoot at and force to come down. The enemy landed several of our aircraft. Territory over which rule or control is exercised. He made it the law of the land. A domain in which something is dominant. A land of make-believe. Bring ashore. The drug smugglers landed the heroin on the beach of the island. Deliver a blow. He landed several blows on his opponent's head. The land on which real estate is located. He built the house on land leased from the city. The territory occupied by a nation. A politically organized body of people under a single government. The country's largest manufacturer. A particular geographical region of indefinite boundary, usually serving some special purpose or distinguished by its people or culture or geography. Bible country. The people who live in a nation or country. The whole country worshipped him. An area outside of cities and towns. His poetry celebrated the slower pace of life in the country.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.